Okay, jumping into 1.6b as in boy. We're on page 70, top of the page, factoring trinomials with leading coefficients of 1. All right, in one of the other sections, we had two binomials, and we would add or multiply those using the FOIL method. So we would do the first and get x squared. We'd do the outside and get 3x. We would do the inside and get negative 2x. And then we would do the last terms and get negative 6. We would combine these here and get x squared. 3x minus 2x is 1x and minus 6. Sometimes we want to go the other way. We want to be given this and get that. So sometimes we want to go the other direction. So there's some rules to follow when we do that, and it's a lot different than just multiplying two binomials together using the FOIL method. So I need you to really focus on what's going on here, because it's a little bit of a step or stretch to be able to do this well. So let's get started and follow the rules. I have x squared plus 2x minus 15. All right, now before we go any further, let me say that factoring trinomials, three terms, doesn't always work this way. You can always factor a trinomial, or you can always find out what the value of x is in a trinomial when you make it into an equation. But you can't always do it this way. So there's actually three different ways we're going to learn how to do it. This one is the easiest, and it's the fastest, but not all trinomials is it possible to use this method. So we're going to practice using this method on these trinomials because it works, and then we'll get into some other ones later on in the course that don't work, and you're going to have to try a couple other methods in order to do it. All right, so what we do first, we find out the factors of negative 15. So I like to just write them down. So 15 times negative 1 is negative 15. Negative 15 times positive 1. 3 times negative 5. Negative 3 times 5. Okay, so those are the four possibilities of numbers that you can multiply together and get negative 15. Okay, so here's how you choose which one works. Once you get your numbers listed here of what multiplies to give you negative 15, then you find which one that when you add them together, if I add 15 and negative 1, or negative 15 and 1, or 3 or negative 5, which of these pairs will add together to give me a positive 2. We're ignoring the x's. What numbers multiply together to give me negative 15? Here's all my pairs here, 4 different pairs, and add up to give me a 2. Well, the only two numbers that are going to add up to give me a positive 2, because one's negative and one's positive, is where the biggest number is positive, like here, and the smallest number is negative. So in this case, 15 minus 1 is 14. That is not 2. The one that works is the negative 3 and the 5. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. So I know this one's right. Multiply them, you get negative 15. Add them, you get 2. So all we're going to do then, draw two parentheses. Put an x here and an x here. And we're going to put a minus 3 and a plus 5. And that is all there is to it. Okay, so I just take this, put it there, this, put it there. And it doesn't matter if the x plus 5 is first and the x minus 3 is second. Doesn't matter. Fact is, you've got to put the sign on the number here and here in order for it to work. All right, so that was a pretty easy one. Well, let's continue on with these. Let's do one like x squared minus 8x plus 6. Okay, factors of 6. 6, 1, 3, 2, and that's it because it's positive. I guess I could put -3, -2, -6, -1, because when you multiply those, you get a positive. So which of these, when you add them together, will give you a -8? That gives me a -7, -5, +5, and a 7. None of them add together to give me -8. So this cannot be factored. We cannot factor it into two binomials because it doesn't work. Therefore, we have to use one of another two methods that we'll get into later. At this point, we're just going to say it's not factorable. And because it's not factorable, we say that it's prime. So it's a prime polynomial. It can't be factored, just like the number 3 can't be factored, and it's a prime number. Okay, so let's look at another one that can. Let's look at example 5 on page 70. X squared minus xy minus 12y squared. So let's look at this here. And first of all, let me make my squared sign actually look like the number 2. That would help. And we're going to find the factors of -12y squared. All right, so -12y times 1y would give me -12y squared, because y times y would give me the y squared. So that's why I have a y here and a y here in order to get that. So each one of these pairs will have a y in them. A 12y and a -1y, a 6y and a 2y, a 6y and a -2y, a 3y and a -4y, -3y and a +4y. So I think that's it. So let's look at which ones, and remember when you look over here, one of these pairs, you have to add the numbers together in order to get 1 right here. So that's what we're looking for, is a 1. In fact, the one we're looking for has a -1. I'm going to put a 1 in there. Just put it in here as red, just so you know you're looking for that one. Okay, so you're looking for a -1. This one will do what you want. 3 minus 4 is -1. Now, don't worry about the y values here. It all comes together in the end. All you're worrying about is the numbers, 3 and a -4. So let's go ahead and write this as x and an x. Okay, so if this is squared, we're always going to take the two x's and put one there and one there. And then we're going to do a plus 3y and a minus 4y. And we're done. Now I do it a little bit different than what the book does, but your end result is going to be what we're looking for. So if you use the FOIL method, that's what you'll get. So this next section, D, on page 71, says factoring other trinomials by trial and error. This is the way I was taught to do it back a long, long time ago, shall I say in the 70s, and I never liked it. It works, but it takes forever to do. So I'm going to teach you another way that's a lot faster, and I think is a lot easier. There's more steps to it, I think, but just finding the answer by trial and error, it can take you a half hour to try to find the answer when you can just use simple algebra and find it. So here's our first problem. The problem with this, another problem, is what I've taught you before was how to factor trinomials when this number didn't exist, when it was 1, when it was just x squared minus x minus 2. You would find the factors of -2 and find out which ones added together then to give us -1. And then you'd make your parentheses and put your numbers in there. But now that we have a 3 here, it makes things a lot different. Okay, so this is how I propose that you do these. First step, we take the first term times the last term. 3 times -2. Okay. That's pretty easy. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go to the second step. We're going to find all of the factors of negative 6. Negative 6 and 1, 6 and negative 1, 3, negative 2, negative 3, and 2. Okay, so that's step 2. Step 3 is we are going to find which of these pairs of numbers here added up give me a negative 1 here. And let me put that 1 so you remember that it's there. So which of those add up to give me negative 1? It ends up being this group right here. So that's the third step. Find pair. I'm not going to write it all out, but you heard what I said. Add up to give me negative 1. Fourth step, we're going to rewrite the problem. So far, we haven't done anything difficult. A lot of steps, but nothing difficult. We're going to rewrite the problem, and instead of putting our negative 1x there, we're going to put this in its place. 3x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 2. Now, one of the things I want you to look at, this says minus 1x. This says negative 3x plus 2x. If you were to put these two together, you would get negative 1x. So we didn't change the value. We just changed what it looked like. We made it bigger. We just took two numbers and put them, added them together to get this term right here. So we took this and we put it here. One of the key things here, and I really want you to listen up on this one because it's really important. If you have a negative and a positive number, always put the negative first if you can, and the positive second. Now, if they're both negatives, you're stuck with a negative here and a negative here. And it doesn't matter which order you put them, but it will work to your advantage if you have a negative and a positive to put the negative first. And we'll go over why that's true later. But right now, just be happy that I told you that little secret. Now we're going to group. So that's step 5. Group. Okay, all you're doing grouping is this. Okay? Now remember, a little while ago, I think the last lesson, we factored out of that. So we're going to factor a 3 out because it's common to both of these terms. And we're going to factor 1x out. And what do we have left? We have an x there, and we took the whole thing out. So remember, you put a 1 there. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to factor out a 2. And what do we have left? X minus, we took this 2 out, so we always have a 1. This will be the case. Whatever is in the grouping symbols will be the same. If they're not the same, you did something wrong. So that's a check there. All right, so that was step 6. Factor. Step 7, I'm just going to say put together. Everything outside the parentheses you're going to put together. And what's inside the parentheses you're going to write as 1. And there is the answer. That beats having to do this by trial and error. It works so much better. So we'll do a couple practice ones in the next video, but right now that gives you a start.